Hi everyone, my name is Lainey, and for my project I chose to base my program around this book, The Miracle of Mindfulness, as well as some of the things we read in Full Catastrophe Living for class. So definitely one of the things I wanted to focus on with my program is that I'm under a lot of stress at work. I work at a retirement home, and due to COVID, we have a lot of regulations we have to follow, which puts a lot of extra stress on the employees and the residents alike. So I've just been kind of having a hard time unwinding when I get home from work. And I thought that meditation would be a perfect way to do so. I came into this with a healthy amount of skepticism because I have never given much thought to meditation previously, much less practice it. I know that there's millions of people worldwide that swear by meditation and mindfulness practices, and I know that there's empirical evidence supporting its benefits as well. And I don't deny the scientific evidence, and I certainly don't want to discredit the anecdotal evidence of all the people who have benefited from it as well. I just personally wasn't sure that it was going to work for me and that I would have the commitment to have it actually make a difference for me. However, I decided that if it was going to be beneficial to me, I was going to need to change my attitude about it a little bit. As we've seen in the Full Catastrophe Living book, attitude has a big part to play in the outcomes we see for mindfulness practice. So I decided to focus on the aspect of meditation and mindfulness that resonated most with me, and that's the idea of being more fully present in the moment. That's something I've tried to emulate in my own life previously. My attempts were only mildly successful. I've tried to cut out social media and just limit screen time, but I've never considered the use of meditation to achieve this goal of mine. So I decided to focus on this aspect, which I knew I could cultivate a positive attitude towards. So I guess now I'll show you guys a little bit about what my experience looked like. The first aspect of mindfulness practice described by Han in the book that I adopted into my own program was formal meditation. Han suggested that beginners first meditate by focusing on their breath. This can be done in either the laying or sitting position. For the first 3 days of the program, I simply laid on my back and focused on the rise and fall of my stomach as I counted my breaths. If my attention would deviate, I would simply draw it back to my breaths and make note of whatever distracted me. For the next 4, I practiced sitting meditation. Han suggests a half lotus pose if you can comfortably sit that way, which I did. The purpose of this formal meditation was to help relax and de-stress after work. Before I adopted mindfulness practices, I would get home from work and immediately plop down on the couch and scroll through social media because I didn't feel like doing anything. As I read, I came to realize that this is not an effective way to relax and do nothing, but rather just a way to fill time until I decide I have to get back to household tasks, schoolwork, etc. Instead of feeling relaxed after this period of doing nothing productive, I usually just felt angry at myself for wasting time. A more effective use of this time would be to partake in intentional non-doing to unwind after a long day. This is why I adopted the formal meditation practice described by Han. I did this for 10 to 20 minutes every day after I got home from work. The Miracle of Mindfulness dedicates a whole chapter to describing a full day of living mindfully. This day includes periods of formal meditation as well as bringing mindfulness to everyday tasks, like washing the dishes, doing laundry, and preparing meals. This means giving the current task your full attention and not thinking about what you're going to do next. Since I'm relatively busy, I thought this would be a perfect way for me to implement mindfulness into my own life. However, because I'm a novice to mindfulness practice and the assignment called for a week-long program rather than a day-long program, I decided it would be more practical to practice an hour of mindfulness every day rather than dedicate a whole single day to it. I decided it would make most sense for this hour to fall right after my formal meditation practice. So for a week after coming home from work and doing my breathing exercise, I would mindfully clean, do laundry, shower, exercise, read, or whatever else the day called for. I would do each task without distraction from my phone, music, or television, which is how I typically keep myself entertained while doing menial tasks. Instead, I tried to focus my attention solely on the action at hand without planning what task I would complete next. This informal aspect of the program also allowed me to address a specific issue that is very personal to me. I have and always have had a very complex relationship with food. I often stress eat or eat simply when I'm bored. This results in eating past the point of fullness, which leaves me feeling terrible both physically and mentally. The miracle of mindfulness and full catastrophe living both briefly mention mindfulness practices when eating and drinking. I decided that I would eat and prepare, if possible, at least one meal a day mindfully. This meant cutting out all electronic distractions, which I think have a lot to do with my inability to fully enjoy meals. Mindfully eating also meant that I gave my full attention to eating and tasting my food, when before I would eat as if on autopilot. This specific part of the program probably produced the most dramatic and noticeable results for me, but the other aspects of the program were similarly and surprisingly beneficial. So now that I've showed you what my program looked like, I want to briefly discuss my reactions and responses to it. Like I said previously, I think that the mindful eating was definitely the area in which I saw the most drastic results and saw the most benefit from. When I ate mindfully, I had so much more energy after my meals than I previously did before I started eating mindfully. I also had less stomach aches in the past week, and I suffer from those pretty often when I don't eat mindfully, so that was very relieving. And then in regards to the rest of the program, both the informal and the formal meditation, the results I noticed from those two were very minor, I would say, which can be expected since I was only practicing for about a week. But I did notice I had an easier time relaxing and kind of getting out of work mode and getting into home mode, so to speak, when I practiced de-stressing after work in that way rather than my typical way. So all in all, I think that this was a really good experience, a really good introduction to mindfulness practices, and I hope to continue and to grow in my meditation abilities so that I can further reap the benefits. Thank you all for watching.